Greetings and salutations. Thank you for lending an ear to The Voice of the Times this Saturday, June 5, 2021. For today's editorial, The Paris Agreement, What It Means and Why It Is Important. The 2015 Paris Agreement on climate change is a frequent topic in the news and is of particular interest here in the Philippines because this country is globally recognized as being among those most vulnerable to climate effects. However, what has been lacking in the volume of discussion about the Paris Agreement, whether from media or from government sources such as the Climate Change Commission, is a simple explanation of what the Paris Agreement means and why it is important to the Philippines and the rest of the world. In the interest of bridging this essential information gap, we will try to provide that simple explanation here. The Paris Agreement resulted from negotiations among the member countries of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or UNFCCC, which now includes every country in the world except for the Vatican, as it is only an observer state within the UN. At the UNFCCC's 21st Conference of Parties in Paris in December 2015, all 197 countries have signed the Paris Agreement, and all but 6 have formally ratified it. The Holy See, despite not being a party to the agreement, has committed to supporting it. Thus, the Paris Agreement has become the global roadmap for addressing climate change. It is a practical agreement, providing a clear direction and goal for the world, but leaving many specific details of how to achieve the objective up to individual countries, since needs and capabilities vary greatly from one country to another. In terms of the science behind the Paris Agreement, it is based on 3 simple principles, supported by a vast volume of empirical evidence. First, that greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and methane in the atmosphere cause an increase in the Earth's average temperature over time. Second, that there has been a rapid increase in the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere since the beginning of the Industrial Age, about the year 1750. And finally, that there is a direct correlation between the increase in greenhouse gases and the rate of increase of global average temperatures since the beginning of the Industrial Age. Therefore, to slow or stop the increase in the global average temperature, the emission of greenhouse gases must be slowed or stopped. The Paris Agreement sets a goal of limiting the increase in global temperatures to between 1.5 and 2 degrees Celsius this century. In other words, the global average temperature at the end of the 21st century should not be more than 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius warmer than it was at the beginning of 2001. The Paris Agreement also acknowledges that countries that contribute the least amounts of global emissions are in most cases the most at risk from climate effects. The Philippines falls into this category, as the country only produces 0.3% of the world's annual greenhouse gas emissions. Thus, the agreement obliges developed countries, which are also the world's biggest polluters, to contribute to funds that more vulnerable countries can tap to finance its needed climate mitigation and adaptation efforts. The target amount of these funds is $100 billion annually, a goal that has not yet been reached. In 2019, developed nations contributed $79 billion. As a party to the Paris Agreement, the Philippines has pledged to reduce its own greenhouse gas emissions by 75% from its 2015 levels by the year 2030. However, given that the Philippines is a climate-vulnerable country, all but a very small part of that commitment is conditional, meaning that it can only be achieved if the country receives the financial and technical support provided for in the agreement. Even if it is followed faithfully, the Paris Agreement will not completely stop climate change. At this point in human history, that is considered impossible. What the agreement will do, however, is help the world lessen the impact of climate change and make the effects manageable for vulnerable countries such as the Philippines, in order that we may safeguard our collective future. The Paris Agreement and the policies developed from it have our full support, and should have the full support of the nation as well. And that's the editorial for Saturday, June 5, 2021. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print, subscribe to our digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and listen to The Voice of the Times.